Most companies you know, most logos you recognize. But every once in a while, there's a company so important, so deeply embedded into the world's infrastructure, that its name never appears on your phone, your laptop, or your city's skyline. And yet governments rely on it. Fortune 500 companies depend on it. Airports, banks, utilities, emergency responders, and even military teams use its systems every single day. This is the story of the most powerful mapping company on Earth. A company that knows the world better than most governments. A company whose software quietly runs in the background of modern civilization. This is the story of ESRI. Chapter 1: The Invisible Empire. Every time a wildfire spreads in California, ESRI's tools are there. Every time a hurricane hits the Gulf Coast, ESRI's systems map the damage. Every time a bank analyzes mortgage risk, every time an airport redesigns its runways, every time a utility company repairs power lines, there it is again. ESRI. Not Google Maps. Not Apple Maps. Not Waze. ESRI's software is far more powerful and far more influential than any of those familiar apps. This isn't turn-by-turn directions. This isn't restaurant reviews. This is geographic intelligence. Geospatial analytics. A digital model of the real world used by governments, corporations, and critical infrastructure operators. And yet most people have never heard the name. That's by design. Unlike consumer tech giants, ESRI doesn't sell to you. It sells to the systems you depend on. The result? A quiet empire, one built on data, geography, and the belief that maps can solve the world's hardest problems. Chapter 2: A company built in a barn. To understand how ESRI became a global powerhouse, we have to rewind to the 1,960 seconds. The company didn't start in Silicon Valley. It didn't start in a skyscraper. It didn't start with venture capital money, government funding, or corporate backing. It started in a tiny, rented space, in a barn, in Redlands, California. The founders, Jack and Laura Dangermond, were young university researchers obsessed with geography. They had a simple idea, but at the time, it was revolutionary. What if we use computers to understand the world? And what if geography isn't just a subject, but a system? It was called GIS, Geographic Information Systems, a way to layer data on top of maps, population, soil types, rivers, roads, infrastructure, disasters, land use, everything. But in the early 1,970 seconds, hardly anyone understood why this mattered. Still, Jack and Laura kept going. They built software. They built tools. They convinced small organizations, local governments, forestry departments, environmental agencies that they could use GIS to make better decisions. And slowly, quietly, the idea spread. Chapter 3: The Rise of ArcGIS. In the early years, ESRI wasn't glamorous. It wasn't famous. But it was one thing: effective. Then, in 1999, the company made a decision that would define the next 25 years of its existence. It launched ArcGIS. ArcGIS wasn't just a piece of software. It was an entire ecosystem. ArcMap, ArcCatalog, ArcServer, ArcPro, ArcGIS Online. Together, these became the backbone of modern mapping and analysis. Governments adopted it. Corporations adopted it. Environmental scientists, city planners, epidemiologists, military analysts, and disaster response teams adopted it. And suddenly, ESRI wasn't just creating maps. It was building the digital nervous system of the world. The company grew quietly, steadily, without taking outside investment. To this day, ESRI remains 100% privately owned by its founders, one of the most financially successful private tech companies in U.S. history. Its revenue is estimated to be over $1.5 billion per year, serving more than 350,000 organizations worldwide, including over 90% of Fortune 500 companies, most U.S. federal agencies, thousands of state and local governments, over 200 national governments, and nearly every major emergency management agency on the planet. ESRI had become indispensable. Chapter 4: The Government's Secret Weapon. Most people think government intelligence comes from classified data, satellites, and secret reports. But here's the twist. Most government agencies rely on ESRI. When an epidemic breaks out, ESRI maps the spread of disease. When roads need rebuilding, ESRI determines the optimal plan. When a city plans a subway line, ESRI models the population flow. When a nation analyzes military terrain, ESRI provides the geographic intelligence. The U. S. Government uses ESRI. The UK. Government uses ESRI. Canada, Australia, Germany, Singapore, virtually every developed government on Earth depends on the company. Even the United Nations uses ESRI systems for climate modeling, disaster response, refugee planning, humanitarian logistics. It is no exaggeration to say ESRI's data shapes the decisions of governments every single day. Chapter 5, Disaster Strikes, ESRI Responds. One of the most dramatic examples of ESRI's global influence came in 2005, during Hurricane Katrina. As the storm destroyed the Gulf Coast, emergency agencies were overwhelmed. Roads disappeared underwater. Communications failed. Maps were useless. ESRI's teams worked around the clock to create real-time geographic dashboards showing flooding, damage, shelter locations, and evacuation paths. For many first responders, those ESRI dashboards were the only accurate maps available in the chaos. And that became a pattern. Whenever disaster struck, wildfires, earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, ESRI tools became the foundation for response. The Camp Fire in California, the Haiti earthquake, the Australian bushfires, COVID-19 pandemic dashboards. The world turned to ESRI. Because when everything fails, you still need a map. Chapter 6, From Environment to Business to National Security. ESRI didn't just help governments. It fundamentally changed how corporations operate. Retail chains use ESRI to decide where to open new stores. Banks use ESRI to assess loan risk and fraud patterns. Logistics companies use ESRI to optimize routes. Oil and gas companies use ESRI to map drilling sites. Telecom companies use ESRI to plan 5G towers. Insurance companies use ESRI to predict natural disaster losses. And then there's national security. Military organizations use ESRI to map terrain, plan missions, analyze satellite imagery, and track global events. In many countries, ESRI is the backbone of defense mapping. Most people never hear about this. But ESRI is always there, quiet, essential, invisible. Chapter 7, The Power of Location Intelligence. The brilliance of ESRI's model is simple. Everything happens somewhere. And if everything happens somewhere, then mapping everything unlocks insight. ESRI built tools to answer questions like, where should new power lines go? Where will crime increase next year? Which neighborhoods are at risk for flooding? Where is the best place to build a hospital? What's the fastest evacuation route during a disaster? Where do supply chain bottlenecks occur? Which cities are growing the fastest? Where will the next wildfire spread? Governments pay for this intelligence. Corporations pay for it. Utilities pay for it. Emergency teams pay for it. Even sports teams use ESRI to analyze fan locations. The more the world becomes digital, the more valuable location intelligence becomes. And ESRI sits at the center of all of it. Chapter 8, The Modern ESRI Era. Today, ESRI is no longer just a mapping company. It's a data company, a platform company, a machine learning company, a cloud company, an analytics company. ArcGIS Online now hosts billions of geographic features. ESRI's cloud tools integrate with AI models to detect patterns from satellite images. Its dashboards track global events in real time. Its geospatial AI tools analyze everything from crop health to urban traffic. The company has created a digital mirror of the physical world, a map of everything, constantly updated, constantly analyzed. It is one of the most powerful data platforms on the planet. And it is still growing. Chapter 9, Why Almost No One Knows Their Name. So, how can a company this important be so unknown? Because ESRI chose a different path. No flashy logos. No ads in Times Square. No celebrity CEOs doing interviews. No Silicon Valley hype cycles. ESRI doesn't sell drama. It sells reliability, accuracy, data, intelligence. For ESRI, invisibility isn't a weakness. It's a strategy. The company's goal isn't fame, it's impact. And by avoiding noise, ESRI became trusted by the institutions that need stability the most. Governments, banks, utilities, disaster agencies, critical infrastructure operators. These aren't customers who care about branding. They care about confidence. They care about precision. They care about results. That's why they choose ESRI. Chapter 10. The Future of Mapping. We are entering a future where everything is connected. Smart cities, self-driving cars, real-time climate dashboards, global supply chain networks, AI-driven disaster prediction, digital twins of entire countries. And ESRI is behind all of it. The company is now expanding in 4 massive directions. 1. Real-time geospatial analytics, tracking traffic, storms, energy grids, drones, shipping, and where all live. 2. AI and machine learning, analyzing satellite images to detect deforestation, floods, fires, and crop health automatically. 3. Digital twins, virtual models of entire cities, states, and nations used for planning, simulation, and crisis response. 4. Global environmental modeling, climate change, sea level rise, water shortages, urbanization. ESRI's tools help predict them. Every one of these markets is enormous, and ESRI already dominates each one. Chapter 11. A private empire with monumental influence. Here's the final twist. ESRI is still privately owned. No shareholders, no quarterly earnings pressure, no stock price to chase, just mission. This independence allows ESRI to reinvest heavily into research, sustainability, mapping standards, and environmental science. Jack and Laura Dangermond have donated hundreds of millions to conservation, education, and scientific research. The company doesn't just make maps. It maps the things that matter. From biodiversity loss to city expansion, from wildfire behavior to ocean health, ESRI's tools help humanity understand the consequences of its decisions. Its technology shapes not just business strategy, but the planet's future. Chapter 12. The company that knows the world. Most tech companies want to be the biggest, the richest, the most profitable, the most famous. ESRI wants something else. To be the most useful. And in many ways, it already is. It maps our infrastructure. It maps our disasters. It maps our risks. It maps our opportunities. It maps our cities. It maps our future. ESRI doesn't just know the world. It understands it. And in a time when geography defines everything from climate change to geopolitics, from supply chains to pandemics, there may be no company more important. A company most people will never see. Producing tools most people will never use. Powering systems most people never think about. Yet shaping decisions that affect everyone. This is ESRI, the invisible mapping empire behind modern civilization. The company that knows the world better than any government,